Getting ready to move on to our entree. I want to see what kind of lamb you're using for this lamb scallopini.
I thought I'd bring a little show and tell and
Okay.
ask you to give me a hand. And since this is smaller and lighter, I'm going to ask you to carry that. That is a grass-fed local leg of lamb from Burley Farm in Great Barrington.
So this is commercial, and this is the grass-fed local.
And what's the difference here, really? Well, there's a couple things you can see easily. This commercial lamb is much bigger and much heavier. And that's what happens when you feed animal grains, is they get bigger and fatter. Another difference, and some of that fat, if you turn yours to the side there,
Big difference.
Huge amount of fat.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're cooking grass-fed beef, it is much leaner and much and healthier for you too. There's another little difference, which is right here. This blue stamp means this has been theoretically inspected by the U.S. government. This just came from, and this has too, but hasn't gone through the same level of process. This was probably processed someplace in the Midwest at one of these giant bushmeat plants, or who knows where. This came locally. It was raised 10 minutes from my house.
Just a few miles. Yeah.
And I know the farmer, and I know what was fed, and that means a lot to me.
No stranger.
No stranger.
No stranger. Now, you know, Michael, one of the things I would love to know as a cook, a professional cook, is there a difference in the way you would cook, say, that local grass-fed lamb, which is leaner than the traditional, more fatty
It is, and in
version?
fact, if you were to roast the grass-fed leg, compared to what you're accustomed to, it is going to be a little drier, it is going to be a little leaner. All that fat, you know, fat does have some virtues in meat.
Carries flavor.
It does carry flavor. What we're going to do is make lamb scallopini, and one of the advantages of doing that is that you can come home and make dinner in just 10 minutes. You are going to have to go to your butcher and ask them to cut a leg of lamb and pound out the meat from the muscle just the same way that they would do
For the veal.
And it's
We're
not
going
hard-
to do that
it's-
right now.
It's not hard to do.
Okay, and this is from a leg of lamb,
It
like the
is.
one we just looked at, the local one.
It is. And what I'm going to do is pound this very thinly, and
Just like for veal
it's
scallopini.
the same way, and this is going to cook in a flash. So I'm going to use my pounder, and the plastic wrap helps the meat from not cracking.
And you know, one thing I noticed you're doing,
I'm kind of,
you're spreading it
Right.
so you don't tear that meat when you pound it. That's the way you do it. You know, I'm with you. I'm surprised that no one's thought of lamb scallopini. When I heard about this recipe, I was very
and
excited.
there's another advantage is that the leg is a relatively inexpensive cut of meat. Unfortunately, things like rack of lamb and loin of lamb are very expensive. A leg of lamb is one of the most affordable cuts of meat there is these days. So this is a great dish to make because it's affordable and it's quick.
Okay. All right. Now, I know you have something special planned to go with the lamb. And it has a wonderful name. It's called?
It's called baba ganoush,
Baba
which
ganoush.
is some of the great lamb-eating cultures of the world are in the Middle East and North Africa. And for some reason, it's not commonly served together, although I think they make a great combination.
Absolutely.
You may be familiar with baba ganoush. It's a roasted eggplant sauce or dish, and it's sometimes served along with things like hummus or caponata. If you can bake a potato, you can make baba ganoush.
Oh, I love that.
So I'm just going to take a knife and give this,
Now, why are you putting those picks in there? Those little...
because the eggplant, like a baked potato, sometimes will explode in your oven.
Okay.
And
Then you'd have to do the cleanup.
Yes, and I'm just going to drizzle this with a little olive oil. And this is almost exactly like a baked potato. This will take an hour in a 350 oven.
No salt, no pepper?
We're going to add all that later.
Okay, and I'll check in here. I'll let
So,
you get that out.
Okay.
Okay. Again, the temperature on this is about
350.
350, 50, 60 minutes. And that's what it looks like when it comes out.
Yes, it does. And this is a hot one. It's kind of like a baked potato. We're just going to remove the skin. I'm just going to scoop out. And it's actually easier to do this if you let this cool off for a few minutes. You don't have to risk burnt. So we have some tahini.
Tahini, which is?
Sesame seed paste.
Okay.
And these are all ingredients found frequently in Middle Eastern cuisine.
And you can find tahini in the supermarket,
Oh, yeah,
the
that's
local
not too hard to
supermarket.
find.
And what are you adding
A little
now?
lemon juice.
Okay.
And I'm just going to take
I have some here.
parsley and strip the tops off.
Okay, and if you want to pulse it or...
Okay.
And you want a little bit chunky?
No, I don't.
You want it
actually.
smoother?
Let's get that a little smoother.
But that didn't take long at all.
No, the nose knows.
Looking
Okay.
good. Well, you know, while we're finishing up this Baba Ganoush, accompanying Betty Rossbottom, and I'm back with Michael Ballon from Castle Street Cafe over in Great Barrington, Mass. And we've just finished up this Baba Ganoush.
It is.
And I like all those green flecks that are in there from the parsley.
Me too. It gives it some color and texture.
And I know we have dessert, cranberry cobblers.
Well, we do. It's the Bay State, and one of the things the Bay State is most famous for is Cape Cod cranberries. Massachusetts actually produces more cranberries than any other state in the country. So we do have some local cranberries. We have some caramelized walnuts, and then we're going to make a topping that's very simple out of flour and sugar and eggs, and it's a really easy way to make a crust instead of making pie crust.
Well, I think it sounds delicious. So what's the first step? What do we start out with?
Well, I have a cup of sugar and water that's been bring to a boil here, and I'm going to just throw my cranberries in, and then I'm going to take this little microplane, which is a great way to zest.
I know everybody loves those. Zest. It takes just the skin off,
It just
right?
takes, right, because the underneath side is a little bitter, and you want to avoid that. And, well, you know, it's also so aromatic.
Yeah, it's great. And oranges and cranberries are a great partner.
Classic combination. I'm going to add a little nutmeg and cinnamon. And
It's a little flair of spices in that.
And in about 10 minutes or so, the cranberries will be cooked, the sugar will be dissolved. And that
And
part
it'll be
is
thickened.
Yes.
And when you hear them pop, right?
That's it.
Okay, so I know that you were nice enough to make up some of these cranberries ahead and let them thicken and cool.
We did.
And that's what it looks like, about 10 minutes and a little resting time later?
It does, and you could leave them all chunky. You could puree the entire quantity. I kind of like the mix of just
A little of each?
A little of each. One of the things that I caution against in food processors is people have a tendency to over-process food.
So you just want a little teeny
Just a little
twisty.
pulse for a second.
Put this back on here for you. That's it?
That's it.
Okay, and then that goes back in there with
It
the...
does. Just put this back in our pot. So now we have pureed half and left half chunky. And we're just going to set this aside while we make the cobbler topping.
Okay.
Should we talk about these walnuts?
You know what? I think I'm dying to know about those walnuts. These are caramelized,
And
right?
all this is two things. It's equal parts sugar and walnuts that have been, you heat the sugar till it melts, and it's a little dangerous to do, not dangerous, but you heat the sugar till it's melting. You add the nuts to stir it in, and it makes this nice thick caramel. And what we're going to do is just add a little of this to our cranberry cobbler because it's going to add sugar and
crunch.
Crunch, and cranberries are tart, so they need
Yeah.
some sugar. So what we're going to do is just chop this up into little chunks, or you can just...
Oh, that's one way of doing it.
That's one way.
And you know, I know our folks at home might like this recipe, and they can go to our website and get all the directions for making all the things we're doing today.